Well, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Welcome to Beyond the March, Other Ways to Resist. I hope you've been able to uh, take advantage of the first two sessions of our activist training. The first one was an intro to Colorado's legislative process, because it's tough to lobby for what you want if you don't know how to play the game called politics. So our own Andrea Wilkins, LWVCO's legislative liaison, gave us the ins and outs of the winding road that a bill takes to become a law. Later, we will be putting the link to the recording for that session in the chat. Session number 2 was on protester rights and safety and featured Christian Gardner Wood, Deputy District Attorney for the 20th Judicial District. He gave us lots of great info about what's legal and what's not, both for protesters and police. And tonight, we're going to talk about what can happen beyond the march, other ways to make your voice heard nonviolently. Some methods of protest are used regularly by the League, and some are more extreme and only appropriate for individual action. Tonight, we have a great mixture of League members and members of the general voting public. All are welcome. And let's get started. If anyone has questions, I will be toggling between two computers and might not be able to see. So please just unmute yourself and interrupt me politely and ask your question. So by the end of this session, we hope and expect that all participants will be able to identify at least 5 nonviolent direct action tactics, understand when and why to use each, and apply basic strategic thinking to tactic selection. You've likely heard of or even participated in some or all of these tactics. But I hope that our discussion about strategy, thinking about the goals of the movement and which tactic or tactics will be most effective in achieving those goals, will be fruitful. But first, let's launch a poll to find out how experienced we all are. Are you experienced? Have you ever been experienced? Well, I have. So let's launch a poll. A little thanks to Jimi Hendrix there. And for those of you who are wondering, there's no relation.
But maybe should be.
So I hope you all can see a poll now. Is that true? What's your level of experience with activism? Are you a beginner? Participated in some marches and sent letters? Are you an intermediate? You regularly march and communicate with your electeds? If you're a pro, your elected officials know your name. You write regular op-eds. Thank you, Jesse. And if you're beyond expert, you organize protests. You, like me, have a kick-ass bullhorn, and you have an arrest record based on your activism. Okay. We've still got a few people who haven't participated. Okay. Let's call her good. So, most of us are beginners or intermediates with a couple professionals, not a single expert. I'm a little surprised by that. But that's okay. I am not encouraging arrest or actions that lead to arrest. Uh, uh, but let's keep these results in mind as we move forward. So, why tactics matter? Marches and rallies are powerful, but they're one tool in a much larger toolkit. Effective movements think strategically about which tactic fits which moment. Gene Sharp, the scholar of nonviolent resistance, has documented 198 distinct methods of nonviolent action, broadly categorized as protest and persuasion, things like formal statements, symbolic public acts, processions and marches, public assemblies. Social non-cooperation, ostracism of people, non-cooperation with social events, customs, and institutions, withdrawal from the social system. Economic non-cooperation. There's actions by consumers, like boycotts, actions by workers and producers, strikes. There's more than 20 different kinds of strikes. Actions by owners or management, like lockouts. There's actions by holders of financial resources, like divestment and withdrawal. And actions by government, embargoes. There's political non-cooperation, rejection of authority, citizen non-cooperation with government, alternatives to obedience, domestic and international governmental action, and nonviolent interventions, psychological interventions like hunger strikes and fasting, staying out in the cold, locked to a tree. There's physical interventions like sit-ins. There's social interventions like overloading facilities or buildings. There's economic interventions. We already mentioned strikes and divestment. And political interventions, actively seeking public arrest and imprisonment, basically for the advertising. Most movements use fewer than 10 tactics, but we're going to talk about just a few in more depth tonight because we only have an hour. I will be sharing resources to allow for additional study at your leisure. So, key strategic questions before choosing any tactic. Who is your target? Is it a corporation? Is it a legislator? Is it a public institution? What pressure can you apply? Economic, reputational, logistical? What are your resources? People, money, time, connections, relationships? And what's your risk tolerance? Are you willing to risk arrest? Risk losing your job? A potential harm to your physical safety? So let's talk about some specific tactics. Boycotts. An organized refusal to purchase from or do business with a target with specific demands attached. Historic examples, the Montgomery bus boycott of 1955 and 1956. The United Farm Workers grape boycott. That one's a little difficult to talk about this week, but it was still a highly successful boycott from 1965 to 1970. The anti-apartheid divestment campaigns of the 80s. I know plenty of people today who are boycotting Target and Amazon, amongst others, for dropping their DEI programs. So why do these work? It applies direct economic pressure and can be sustained over time without requiring large gatherings. Boycotts also build solidarity across distances. So, key considerations. The demand must be specific and achievable. The boycott must be publicized. Economic pressure requires visibility. Solidarity with workers inside the targeted company matters. And secondary boycotts targeting suppliers or advertisers can amplify the pressure. A common mistake with boycotts is calling a boycott without a clear win condition. What does the company have to do for the boycott to end? Another key consideration, is this a league appropriate activity? That answer technically is no. The league does not have a position allowing leagues to make demands of corporations. So there won't be any grounds for league demands of corporations until that changes. So boycotts must be done as individual action. Any questions there? Okay, strikes and work stoppages. Workers refuse to perform their labor entirely or partially to pressure employers or governments. There are many forms. I already mentioned there's more than 20 types of strikes. There's full strikes, there's sick outs, there's work to rule, which means doing only exactly what the contract requires, no more, no extra. That can also be called quiet quitting. And there's sympathy strikes. Some historic examples, the 1968 Memphis sanitation strike caused a mess. The 2018 West Virginia teacher strike closed schools for months. The 2023 SAG-AFTRA strikes, remember, no movies were made. And pictured here, Icelandic women in 1975. On the 24th of October, 1975, Icelandic women went on strike for the day to demonstrate the indispensable work of women for Iceland's economy and society, and to protest wage discrepancy and unfair employment practices. Participants, led by women's organizations, did not go to their paid jobs and did not do any housework or child rearing for the whole day. 90% of Iceland's female population participated in this strike. And the following year, Iceland's parliament passed a law guaranteeing equal rights to women and men just the following year. So it worked. So why does it work? Because labor is irreplaceable in the short term. A strike removes the thing that employers need most. Considerations: strikes are most powerful when workers are already organized. Strike funds matter. Workers need income to sustain action. Non-union workers can use sick outs or blue flu tactics. Blue flu is a police specific quiet quitting strike. And strikes without a union can lead to firings, obviously. So it's important that strikers know their legal protections. Now, is a strike a league appropriate activity? I don't really know how it would work, uh, but it's something we could absolutely talk about. Any thoughts or questions there?
I have one question.
Great.
So one thing that comes up with strikes every so often is a conversation about whether or not customers should go and shop. I've heard some trains of thought where it's like you still go and shop so that they feel the pressure of not having their labor, or you don't go and shop because you want to show solidarity with the workers. Can you speak a little bit to that dichotomy?
You're right to call it a dichotomy, Jesse. That's exactly what it is. And it really depends on um, your personal feelings. There's a lot of people who are not comfortable crossing a picket line. And But you do have a point that going in and trying to do business as usual in a place that is not doing business as usual can kind of point out the additional chaos. So I don't know of a study that says that one is better than the other. I think it's a matter of personal preference.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Next, creative disruption and culture jamming. This is using art, humor, parody, and unexpected spectacle to expose hypocrisy, shift the narrative, or make a target look absurd. Some examples. Remember the yes men who impersonated corporate and government officials? Yes, yes, yes. Greenpeace doing banner drops in some really inconvenient places, according to fisheries and other uh, uh, oil drilling, things like that. Um, Die-ins. Have you seen a die-in in a public place where people pretend to be dead? Projecting messages up onto buildings, mock shareholder meetings. I personally would call Banksy part of creative disruption and a culture jammer. I also think the inflatable frogs are a pretty good example of this. So, why does it work? Because media covers the unusual. How many frogs have we all seen in the past few months? Creative actions generate images and stories that spread. And they can make powerful institutions look ridiculous, which is its own form of power erosion. So, considerations: the image or message needs to be instantly legible. It's good to have a media plan. Who's filming? Who's doing press? Humor lowers defenses and increases shareability. Parody is legally protected speech in most democracies. I think we can all kind of wonder how that's going. Pretty sure Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel are wondering how that's going. And is this a league appropriate activity? I don't see anything against it in league positions. I could see league members showing up as inflatable frogs to any number of places. We're good at putting on costumes and marching. So I think this could be a creative way for the league to protest. Certainly for individuals. So, sit-ins and occupations. Physically occupying a space, a lunch counter, a corporate lobby, a university building, and refusing to leave. I'm sure we all know the historic examples, the Greensboro lunch counter sit-ins of 1960, the Standing Rock encampment of 2016, the Wisconsin Capitol occupation of 2011. That was fun. And here in Denver, I feel like we've got a pretty good example very recently. Palantir recently fled the state. After continual protests in front of their building. They didn't tell anybody why. They fled the state in the middle of the night. Now, why does this work? Well, because it disrupts normal operations. It forces a public response. It's visually compelling. The target must either negotiate with, ignore, and possibly lose business or the ability to function, or to remove the protesters. And each of those options carries costs. So, key considerations: have a clear ask before you occupy. It's good to establish roles: spokesperson, legal observers, support outside. Know your arrest policy in advance. Who's willing to be arrested and who isn't? It's good to train participants ahead of time in how to go limp safely if removed by the police. Now, is this a league appropriate activity? I think this is a little extreme for the league, but things are getting extreme. So we'll have to see about this. Absolutely appropriate for individuals if you're willing to put your potential freedom at risk. So, and you might want to think, what spaces in your community might be strategically significant to occupy? So, strategic lobbying and accountability visits. Organize constituent pressure directly on decision makers, showing up at offices, town halls, public events, not as supplicants, but as constituents exercising power. Here we have a nice photo of Chuck Grassley being confronted at one of his town halls. Poor guy. What forms do they take? Office visits, town hall flooding, bird dogging, tracking and publicly questioning officials at campaign events. And then there's also bird dog and record tactics. So bird dog them and record them while you do it. I think we have all seen great examples of some elected officials being bird dogged, in the past year. Robin?
Yeah, somebody else asked the question, what is bird dogging?
Bird dogging is tracking and publicly questioning officials, especially at campaign events. So Some of the Parkland survivors got pretty good at bird dogging legislators. It can be a really effective tactic, especially if you add record in there as well. So why does it work? Elected officials are accountable to constituents. Repeated, organized, visible pressure, especially when recorded, changes political calculations. Now, is this a league appropriate activity? We do a lot of strategic lobbying and a lot of accountability visits. So I think this is something we absolutely do. Bird dogging, we tend to be a little more polite, but I don't believe there is anything in our playbook that would discourage recording and asking of public questions. It's important to research your target's pressure points. Who are their donors? What are their upcoming votes? What are their re-election fears? Always have a specific ask. Record everything in public spaces. And remember that constituent voices are more powerful than outside organizers' voices. Non-cooperation. Refusing to comply with laws, orders, or systems considered unjust, making those systems expensive or impossible to enforce. This comes in the form of tax resistance, draft resistance. Here we've got some fellows burning their draft cards. Sanctuary practices. I think we here in Colorado are pretty familiar with sanctuary practices. There's refusing to testify, pleading the fifth. And civil disobedience chains, where one arrest leads to another and can effectively swamp the police. Historic examples, Henry David Thoreau's tax resistance, the Underground Railroad. We already talked about draft card burning during the Vietnam War. And we already mentioned sanctuary city practices. Those can all be considered non-cooperation. So why does it work? Because unjust systems depend on voluntary compliance from the majority. Withdrawal of that compliance reveals the coercive mechanism beneath. So some non-cooperation can be considered a league-appropriate activity, such as following sanctuary city and state practices. Others, not so much. These tactics often carry the highest legal risk of any tactic, and legal support should probably be arranged in advance. Non-cooperation is most powerful when it is widespread. One person resisting is a martyr. Millions resisting is a movement. And moral clarity and public framing matter a lot. So, tactic selection. Use this grid when choosing a tactic. Who decides? Who has the actual power to give you what you want? What do they value? Money? Reputation? What can you disrupt? Match your tactic to what they can't afford to lose. What's your timeline? Some tactics take months, others force an immediate response. And what can your group sustain? A tactic that you can't maintain is worse than a simpler one you can. Any questions there? Then there's the escalation principle. Movements typically begin with the least disruptive tactics and escalate when those fail. Starting with maximum disruption removes leverage. Building towards it preserves it. And yes, I very purposely chose the golden escalator. So let's choose a tactic and talk about what would be most appropriate for these scenarios. So a city council is about to vote to close a community center in a low-income neighborhood. What do you all think would be an appropriate tactic for that?
To start or in general?
Both.
The meeting,
Um,
sorry.
Go ahead, Robin.
Flood the town hall when that council is meeting. But first you have to make sure that it's something that is unpopular with a lot of people. First of all, get your allies ready to go.
Mhm.
So I
Okay,
forget which
so-
one that's called, but
Yep, flooding a meeting. I would think that letters to the editor or op-eds would be good too. Let the general public know. Thalia?
Use social media to spread the word. Get all
Absolutely.
the word out there.
Mm-hmm. In the hopes of
People
mobilizing more people.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how about scenario B? A major employer in your city has repeatedly violated wage theft laws with no consequences. I think that could be time for, depending on what kind of employer, a boycott, a public protest in solidarity with the workers.
Letters to the editor on that also.
Letters to the editor. What about a sit-in at the actual employer?
Or a walking line, not picket line, but
Yep. A public protest.
yeah, at the employer.
Yes. And a state legislator keeps avoiding town halls and refuses to meet with constituents. Huh. Anybody ever experienced that?
Just occasionally.
Mm-hmm. So what's appropriate there? Here is where some bird dogging might be handy.
I would also think showing up at the Capitol or other similar locations.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I remember when that first became a thing for Republican legislators, the Democratic legislators in adjacent districts would hold town halls for those people in the area where, the legislator was avoiding town halls. I thought that was really effective.
Yep, that's creative. Mm-hmm. Creativity counts. Anybody else? Okay, safety and sustainability must be a part of any planning for any sort of protest. You need to be aware of your physical safety. Our activist training session number 2 covered this. And I will be putting the link in chat in just a minute about that because that's some really valuable information. So, but for physical safety, know your use of force laws in Colorado. Have legal observers at any action. You can carry the National Lawyers Guild number written in marker on your arm. Digital security. Assume your communications may be monitored during active campaigns. Consider using an encrypted app like Signal for sensitive organizing. Don't post arrest risk plans on public channels. Emotional sustainability. Activism, I think we all know it's a long game. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Burnout is the movement's biggest enemy. You got to build in rest, celebration, and community, not just action. Joy is resistance. And know your rights. You have the right to film police in public spaces. You have the right to remain silent if you're arrested. You do not have to consent to a search. And every tactic should answer one question. How does this shift power? Power in a democracy is never just about who holds office or who has money. It's also about narrative, legitimacy, and consent. Nonviolent direct action works by withdrawing consent, raising costs, and shifting the story until the target finds it easier to concede than to hold the line. These tactics today, they're not tricks. They are the accumulated wisdom of movements that have changed the world without picking up a weapon. So I hope that you will reflect on one tactic that you learned today that you hadn't considered before. And what would it take to use that in your own personal context? So I promised resources. Here's some resources. I mentioned Gene Sharp earlier. He's kind of the father of the politics of nonviolent action. He's identified 198 different tactics. Beautiful Trouble kind of builds on John Lewis's legacy. Build Momentum is a great training and curriculum site. INE Institute is also another great site, and Bill Moyer has a great movement action plan. Everyone who signed up for this training tonight will receive a copy of these slides, so you will get these resources in your email, if not tomorrow, sometime very soon. And thank you for being here. Remember, democracy is not a spectator sport. Robin.
I'm part of a group that basically is a lot of the members are Quakers, some are other faiths or no faith at all, but wanting peaceful action. And I know these folks, I mean, some of them are league members, but a lot are not. Is this is this public in that we could share this slide presentation?
Sure. I don't have an issue with that.
Great. Thank
Great.
you.
Let's chat. Hi, Jan.
Hi, thanks so much for this, Beth. I really appreciated it. And I have a question for you. Earlier in the year, um, there was an empty chair town hall because our rep refused to come to our town. And it was a little snide, but what they ended up doing was having everybody show up and they videoed people asking questions they would have asked to the representative and then sending that to his office. So, in other words, we were still able to get questions to him. But our local league decided not to support it because they felt it could be looked at as partisan because it was a certain party.
Mhm.
What's your opinion about that from a league perspective?
I think that needs to be taken on a case by case basis. Um, your league knows your community, uh, and uh, you know better than me how the optics might be taken.
Okay. So
So,
that's not a league stance per se or something like
correct.
that. Okay.
Yes. Um, if you're targeting, one particular legislator who's not showing up, um, I mean, on one hand, you have every right to do that as constituents. And it's possible that you could get some flack from some people for targeting a legislator of a particular party. It seems to me that once they've been elected, they have a responsibility to their constituents. And
Right.
if they're not living up to that responsibility, the constituents have the right and responsibility to demand representation.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm. I have not been monitoring chat. Does anyone have any questions in there that I haven't seen?
I think you answered them.
Great. Okay. Any other questions this evening? Raleigh. Oh, and then Maud.
Sorry, I have so many questions. I think some of the chat involves demonstrations taking place on May 1st. Is the league in Colorado supporting, or the US League supporting May 1st demonstrations, and what specifically is the topic for the demonstrations on May 1?
That I don't know. I haven't heard about any rallies coming on May 1. Does anyone else know? I will certainly check with LWVUS about that. Okay, I
think
will.
it's a general boycott day, I believe. That's all I know so far, but it's not a rally or a protest like we've had so far. It's more of a boycott.
Thanks, Maud. Great.
It does mention on May 1st, 2026, workers, students, and families rally, march, and take action across the country to demand a nation that puts workers over billionaires, with many refusing business as usual. So
Maddie's got a good question. If it's a boycott, what are the demands?
Yeah. You taught us something.
Yeah. Yeah, and they have an organizer meeting April 9th. No school, no shopping. Well, it's a Saturday, so no school.
No shopping, no work. That's pretty interesting. I personally find it really impressive that Icelandic women were strong enough to not care for their kids.
Yeah.
I mean, wow, that is awesome. Jeff.
Beth, great presentation. It seems like you did a lot of research on this, and it shows. My question is that it frustrates me that um, our efforts locally don't seem to come together and coalesce into a bigger movement. I think LWVUS is spot on with 8.5 and Rise, because what they're trying to do is to create that spark that goes bigger. I'm seeing with younger kids, they're starting to be affected. They're feeling a pain point with the Iran war because we're talking about starting the draft again. But
Mhm.
how does this all coalesce into a bigger movement that has meaning? I mean, like I would see, like 2 million people walking down Pennsylvania Avenue. And how do we grow from where we are, where, we're trying to protest, but we can't create the coalitions and the coming together to make this even more impactful. And I know it bothers me that I just can't figure out how can we bring all of this together under one roof to have young people together with people who are afraid of losing their social security to people in the armed forces. Um, do you know any historical events of how this has come together? Like, with the Vietnam War, I mean, that just grew and grew and grew. But it seems like we're at a time where we need a spark that takes us to the next level.
Well, I believe that the No Kings rally this past Saturday uh, drew larger numbers than No Kings 2 and No Kings 1.
Right.
Um, I I mean, we have seen pressure on corporations and universities work. But I guess which movement do you mean? What goal are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, that is
Mm-hmm.
the first nail down make it a singular focus on
Mm-hmm.
a specific goal. Yeah. I don't know. I don't have the answers yet.
Mm-hmm. Um, and I think that the No Kings and hands off rallies. Yep, there's another good one, the Velvet Revolution. Um, and let's go back to 1789 with the French Revolution.
Hmm.
Talk about power of the people. So, what will it take? I think there needs to just be more clear consensus on the goal.
Really good point.
Beth,
Any other thoughts?
there's a comment in the chat from Colette that says, where'd it go? Oh, how can we get people to boycott federal taxes? I don't want my money going to a government that doesn't support anyone, and the president withholds funds from blue states. As I recall, didn't California threaten to not send the feds their collected taxes? I don't know what
That is correct. And I have heard talk in Colorado of that as well. Coloradans send more money to the federal government than Colorado receives.
Mhm.
So that obviously would need to involve our state government, and that would be pretty extreme.
Mhm.
But Colette, yes, I would just repeat what Maud replied to you. You just got to look at your individual risk tolerance. Are you willing to deal with the potential consequences? The IRS usually ain't kind.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Can I also just jump in here for a sec? Sorry, I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand.
Hi, Maddie.
Hi, I taught US history for years, and we would always show this clip of the Freedom Riders and the first busloads of the Freedom Riders who went down, and I understandably got freaked out when they were firebombed and they left. And then John Lewis coming in as, afterwards as a congressperson and saying, we couldn't let them win. So SDS had to go in. We were trained. We were willing to be beaten. We were willing to be jailed. So his message just being like, don't take something on that's above your risk level because it hurts the movement.
Yeah, excellent point. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget a substitute teacher I had in 6th grade telling me about his experience doing a sit-in with Dr. King.
Oh, wow.
And this substitute, his name is Mr. Roll, and he was a big guy. And they were doing a sit-in, and he said he was sitting next to this very small, petite woman, and the police just picked her up and threw her.
Oh, wow.
And he said to him, throw me. So they grabbed him by the clothes and ripped the clothes right off of his body. And they eventually dragged him out in his underwear.
Wow.
But I was really impressed by that story as a 6th grader.
That's awesome.
Mhm. Any other questions?
Do we have any idea like how many people protested this past Saturday? I know there's speculation on numbers, but is there any kind of cohesive total?
Not that I've heard. I heard that Denver was somewhere between 10,000 and 100,000.
That's helpful.
So I don't know. I saw some really great photos, of DC, Minneapolis, LA. So yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I have a quick comment.
Oh. Mhm.
So I agree that it feels like, well, and it's intentional, they are quote unquote flooding the zone, and it spreads our attention and it moves our attention every day, right?
Mhm.
I think what and I don't know how to take care of that. I mean, when you look at Minneapolis, they were protesting a very specific
Mhm.
policy event, whatever you want to call that, of what ICE was doing. And here in Colorado, we have ICE infractions. I mean, it's the same thing. We have all these other things that are going on. And I think it's just kind of a no kings kind of thing that can really pull everybody together, because no kings means all of these things. It's all encompassing, right?
Mhm.
But
Yes.
other than that, I feel like, everybody has different passions. And my problem is like it changes from day to day because they're successful in getting my attention on the next horrible thing.
Mhm. Absolutely. Should I be most upset about uh, the emoluments clause being ignored, or the rights of our immigrant and asylee and refugee neighbors?
Yep.
Or should it be voting rights or
Exactly. Yeah. All the
healthcare?
above. Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
Flooding the zone is a good way to put it.
Well,
But
that's Steve Bannon's term. I took it.
mhm.
It seems for the league that this most recent executive order about voting and collecting, having a national voter list and all of that, and the SAVE Act,
Yep.
that's a singular issue that is speaks to the league's mission, and
Yep.
it's something that we could really focus on with our expertise.
Beth, this is Kay. Another thing that I would say, hi there, I would say is I think if we focused on where laws are being broken, because everybody has a law that has been broken, and each group could come forward with their specific law, and we're not against that. We're just talking about the process, and it'd be something that the league could begin to pull people together around.
Yeah, thanks, Kay.
Mhm.
And Erica, to answer your question, is there a reason why LWVUS and LWVCO and local groups aren't working to generate a singular demand for members to act on? No, I don't think there's a reason. I think that both LWVUS and LWVCO are overwhelmed by the flooding of the zone, and there are too many infractions to choose from. So we'll continue to push for that, but yeah, it's hard to narrow it down to just one thing. Maud.
But there have been national action alerts
Absolutely.
on the SAVE Act and just on our core of voting rights and free and fair elections.
Absolutely. And a few about immigrant rights as well. But yes, voting rights. And I hope you all saw the statement that was issued last night. I redistributed this morning. So, and I feel certain that Colorado will sue the federal
We're almost
government
done,
too.
Greg. I've got about 3 or 2 minutes.
Okay.
So, yeah. The flooding continues, and the fighting continues. But remaining organized or getting organized is a challenge.
Which the league is pretty good at.
It's true. It's true. We're quite the platform. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was really helpful.
Excellent.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
So much.
Next session is on the 15th. It's about reaching disengaged voters or underrepresented voters. We have partners from Mi Familia Vota, and who will talk about reaching Latina and Spanish-speaking voters, and Colorado Criminal Justice Reform Coalition, who will talk about reaching incarcerated voters. Hope to see you all there, April 15th. Thanks so much for caring and for being willing to not just be a spectator, but an activist.
Thanks, Beth.
Thank you all. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.